Hi, this is James Athayanchik, the Black Knight of Talk Radio, inviting you to join me on a road to truth via the path of non-contradiction. Join us each week on Feet to the Fire, a show with the goals of examining a subject matter on its own merits and test how it stands up to the many possibilities found in reality. All without pre-drawn conclusions found in personal bias. No left or right wings here. No pounding the pulpit of ego-driven my way or the highway attitudes. But there are no free passes given either. Answers to questions are important, but equally important is the reasons and methods used to find the answer. The lack of contradiction is the final judge here on Feet to the Fire. Feet. Sunday evenings, 8 to 11 Eastern. Fire. How do you listen? www.feet2fire.com for more information.
The views expressed in the following show are of the host, the guest, and the callers. The content of the following show, its accuracy, authenticity, and the ramifications of the use or application of said content is the responsibility of those speaking and listening, not the broadcast medium.
We are back, and we are live. Yes. Live on Feet to the Fire. I'm your host, James Athayanchik, Black of Talk Radio. A little fireworks for the occasion. Let me see here. Got a lot of bang and booms there. That's good enough. You get the point. We are back and we are live. I'm your host. I said that already. James Athayanchik, the Black Knight of Talk Radio. April 2nd, or July 2nd. It is the 4th of July weekend, and this is our show. I want to say hi to folks in the chat room. Boiled Nuts is back again. Rick D. Others popping in. And so we have that live chat room. While we do the live show, you can stop in there and pop along, chat along, and ask questions, comments. I will get to them as I can. I didn't have the less visible video at the time of airing yet. It was still uploading, but we will get that during the show. I will do my multitasking magic and download that, and we can toss that up. If nothing else, we'll just pop it on the main YouTube screen, and we'll get that going. But a bunch of stuff I want to get through. Well, the things that happened today, I guess. All the hoopla is out today anyway from Donald Trump's tweet, President Trump. It's pretty funny. Darth Vader, Digital Diva checking in. It's pretty funny. Now, the funny part about this, it's really amazing. It's how it's splitting, how people are split. There are people who don't appreciate it. They're like, well, whatever. But they can appreciate what it's doing to the people who are getting so upset by it. And I appreciate it in that it is going after those people, those entitled, important people who have they're like the nobility class. You have the big money people, the big political people at the top. You have these. Then you have this nobility class, which they hang around in the court, and they basically live off the money of the system. Which, of course, the king's money comes from the peasants who are working outside the walls. And those peasants are lucky because they have the king's protection. In our case, these nobles who are worthless
think that they're doing us a favor by telling us what to think and how to think and telling us the real information, all the while being used as propagandists for the politics involved. So it's wonderful what the president is doing is for us, the people out there working for a living who are paying the bills. When people get paid at CNN, it comes from the people watching CNN. It comes from advertisers who are banking on you watching CNN. When people get paid in politics, if they are representatives, if they are contractors, they're getting paid by the representatives are getting, and the contractors are getting paid by us who are paying the taxes, which have money for them to do this stuff. And they act very privileged, like, well, they're so-and-so, And what's great here about the president is that he is just rubbing that all in their face. He's all basically, it's almost like, you ever see that joke where they put your finger here, they look down and they go like this? This is what he's doing to them, and it's driving them crazy, and they want him out of there. The RussiaGate didn't work. The Comey collusion didn't work. Now they're trying to go for insanity. Of course, from their point of view, somebody who is still there after all they did to him must be insane to take all that punishment. But when you are Teflon, it just slides off. So you have Trump with his Teflon coating as well as his sharp tongue, and knows that those people are nothing but they're the court they're courts. And what he's doing, he's the court jester, is also the president. It's like, you ever see these various movies where they have like these people sitting around talking, and it turns out that the guy who was cleaning up is really like Jesus returned, and these people are talking about how wonderful they are, and they got these little clever. They had this stuff on what was that? Twilight Zone, things like that, where you have this is what this is you have, according to them, the court jester has been elected president, and, they should be president, or at least they should be on the in crowd with the hierarchy, and they're getting what they deserve because they're worthless, lying, cheating, arrogant people. And it's so nice to see that. It's like they've held the media for so long. They had the 3 networks, and then when cable expanded, again, it was still a closed system. Even movies had the big mega studios, and now you have all this independent stuff. The technology's got to the point where individuals can make a movie with as good a quality as movies that were made as little as 10 years ago, and the movies that are higher quality now cost so much that and the difference is all in the special effects or in paying for a particular actor, and now they'll find out there's a lot of good actors and there's a lot of good people out there. I mean, back when Star Wars was made, they made up all these special effects for the first time. And so, anyway, getting off the track, if you have not seen the Donald Trump tweet, then you perhaps haven't been, awake too much. Maybe just woke up from you're a night person. But let's see if I can switch here. Did I turn off the fireworks? Okay, because every time I'll go back to the fireworks, it will it'll go off. Here is this terrible, insane tweet, which I think is funny, and I'll get to some of the stuff in a minute. But here I want to just bring it up to you, you can see it. Oh my God, what's going to happen? Donald Trump, Donald Trump, and in this little scenario, he took out somebody, and what they did is they put the CNN logo over the top of it to signify symbolically of Donald Trump winning in this fake news war. Now, he's now calling it Fraud News Network.
which I know is just pissing them off. Oh, I'm sorry. Nothing else. I haven't enjoyed a president in his stuff. I know now there's Syria and there's stuff going on in the background. Don't get me wrong. I'm upset about that, but, we'll see. Digital Diva says the emperor has no clothes. Yes, they have. Trump is pointing out that the media have no clothes and they are standing there naked. And I did mention that there is like a thermal break in the media so that the people who are closely attached to them or that hate Trump so mad bunch are sticking by him in this, even as they get crazier and sillier. And that's the thing is, and this is the principle. This is why she's clear as bell. When you are caught up in a delusion, what happens in reality, and this is how I think the God's universe works, all right? What happens and it's happening particularly now, which makes me wonder what's happening coming down the pipe, because it seems like the reality consequences are turning up, So, but as you go farther down that delusional path, you get farther away from rationality. You go toward insanity. So what happens is the people who have some rationality, it comes a point when they'll get off the merry-go-round, when I go like, I can't. Maybe they'll go offline, change their name. They don't want to, they'll go away from it because they can't take it anymore. But the people who are tied delusionally will go, they'll just stay and stay. And what it does is it eventually leaves the reality and you go off in La La Land. I've not seen the movie, so I'm not referencing that. But this is the scenario that's going on here. And as they get, and people who are in the media, people who are in the Democratic Party in power, in the liberal organizations, they got no choice but to hold on and just hope that he will die literally or die politically, be removed. But they'll take the death. They'll take him dying, no problem. No tears will be shed if that happens. This is the cruel truth of this whole thing, is that when you do challenge somebody's rationality to the point of absurdity, their absolute anger and hate will just cover them. And this is a story about years ago. You'll hear a person, stuff happening at work, wife cheating on him, left him, or it happens the other way. The husband cheating and the wife ends up stabbing him 50 times. It's because she's abusing him. What happens, the person gets so far, they snap, and they don't even take out their rationale, their revenge on people. This person who can't take it anymore, he flips out and goes to McDonald's and kills 4 people. It's not their fault. It's not McDonald's fault even. It's just that there is this break from reality, and in their mind, if you could be inside and understand, this was a rational act. And this is the scary thing about irrationality or insanity, is that in an insane person's mind, it's a rational decision. Now, I am deducing that, not being insane myself, or that I'm aware anyway, that, but this is either they're so raged that they flip out and strike out, or that they have lost touch. And so what is happening is the media and the power people are getting so mad, pissed, and upset that they're losing touch with reality, and they will cause them to do things that we will see as silly and crazy and what, and so on. So now Trump tweeting this video is far from crazy. It's not presidential. Well, I don't know. If you go through the history of the presidents, there were some unpresidential people. In other words, they were kind of from either have a personality or they have a non aristocracy type of a point or what have you. So, but what's very interesting in this, and if we get to the Facebook page, some of my stuff I have saved on here. Well, first off, let me go to this tweet. Somebody actually inquired on Twitter, I would imagine a lot of people,
saying that Trump violated his Twitter rules by having the anti-media stuff, and they officially got back to him and said it didn't. Anyway, so here's a story. Breitbart is covering this, but CNN's Navarro has said that Trump's CNN tweet, quote, is an incitement to violence. He is going to get someone in the media killed. Now, when I first heard that, and I'm sure you too, it's like, first thing I thought of was like, what, so it's okay to have somebody picking up the beheaded CNN in ISIS style. It's okay to have him killed nightly in a play very violently. It's okay to have various pop stars either in video or on camera talking about dying or whatnot. That's not going to incite anybody to violence. But Trump having CNN WrestleMania is going to incite someone to kill a media outlet. Now, you can see this. I can see this. But this goes to show the delusional brain, the from reality that people are in the media to say this, he's going to get someone killed. Well, if that's true, that little bit that he did is true, these guys went way over the top, and that was okay for somehow. Journalistic license, artistic, whatever. So I'm actually surprised that someone said this because it's so obvious the blowback that comes is built-in automatic. So now people say, why? You wonder why Trump did that? He triggered them into that reaction. So now Trump's statement is like, wait a minute. All I'm doing is showing some little wrestling thing. Not even showing any individuals. We're just a wrestling. And you guys are having me beheaded and bloody, and that's okay? But these are the type of things that will blow the mask off them, and people will understand that they're ridiculous. So this is what I'm hoping people get from this. I'm going to for journalist, Obama was actually the most dangerous president. This is a Twitter I have down here. For fake news hacks, Trump is. And that reason that, let me see how is this going to work out here. I'm going to have to make it to the big one. All right. Here's a post from Mike Cernovich. And it's got it's a picture, screen capture. Obama used the Espionage Act to put record number of reporter resources in jail. This is Obama's Justice Department succeeded in putting a number of people in jail for daring to help national security journalists report on classified information. And Obama was more dangerous to the press in terms of losing your freedom. And Trump, who is just tweeting about the hacks, people who are goofballs. So that's just there's a couple of pictures that I maybe it's childish, but it was pretty funny pictures. So I shared them on here. I guess I'll show this. This is a little fun. We don't get too much fun stuff here. Here's my dog, Charlie, the wonder dog.
Can you see who that is, huh?
He's talking.
Who's that, buddy?
Can you believe CNN is what he's saying? So, there you go. Charlie the wonder dog checking in. And speaking of dogs, I heard talking in the chat room, there's a story out about giving cocaine to dogs to help them run faster. I mean, is it surprising? No, it's not surprising. People will do anything. I mean, they have cockfights where they kill each other. This is another funny video. Now, I'm going to play this on here. I've had problems before because, and I don't know if because you reach a certain level of viewing and there are more scrutiny, I don't know. not to sound paranoid, but maybe because of the topic. Maybe I'm, I don't know. But there's videos that show on YouTube, and I play a clip from it, and they ban everything, even though the video's not banned, and it's on YouTube. Right? So I will play a clip of this, and you could find the rest of it. It's by Remy, and he does like a little rap thing showing the absurdity of the people talking about that the GOP plan is going to kill people. People will die, and the tax breaks will be from the blood of the poor.
These cuts are blood money. People will die. Let's be very clear. Senate Republicans are paying for tax cuts for the wealthy with American lives.
People need kidneys, it's sad but decreed, yet the senator's hoarding one more than she needs. I offer this bill and I hope you'll vote aye, unless of course you just want people to die. Traffic deaths have many crying with fear. Over 30,000 people are dying each year. This modest change I propose must be applied, unless of course you just want people to die. Alcohol deaths are exceeding comparisons. Black people, white people, Native Americans. We need to ban alcohol. It can't be denied, unless of course you just want people to die. Murders are bad. They have no defenders, yet many are committed by repeat offenders. I say lifetime in prison, whatever the crime, unless of course you just want people to die. I don't have a bill or a groan to detail. I just need a short clip for my donor email. Tim, there's blood on your hands. You want people to die. That good? Cool. Tim, dinner at 5? Yeah. The car deaths I mentioned are terrible stuff. Doesn't seem one seatbelt is ever enough. You must vote for my act so that fewer will cry, unless of course you just want people to die. Carbs.
It goes on and on and on and talks about this. So you can check that out. Remy, people will die. It's very clever. It's simple and clever to the point, talking about how the language is so ridiculous. 25 million people are going to lose health care. I'm on the point of losing health care, of affording it. Because I went to take, this is what I just did, is I took a bunch of tests. Every couple of years, I go take a battery of blood tests and urine tests and whatever else, And I've been going, I had insurance years ago, and I did it on my own. I went to, and I recommend this place, by, I think it's called Private MD. I'll put it in the links when I put this together. And you can get tests done at a pretty reasonable price because they work in a group plan with LabCorp, which is the same lab I would have won anyway. And my company couldn't tell me if it would be covered or not until they found out what it was and why, because if it was a routine test, it's covered 100%. If it is a test based on, we think you have a problem, here's a test, it wouldn't be covered. So I went and paid for it myself. And here I am insured, paying for my own tests myself. Because who knows what the cost would be. Each one of those tests individually are expensive, but these group plans, and they call them panels, where they do a bunch of them at once, and you get this price, and who knows what they would do. Yes, the boiled nuts stop all wars because people will die. I hear that. So that video is pretty cool. And you can check that out. I'll show some of this stuff when I do it, just a clip like that. Hopefully I'll get through the copyright monsters who they seem to, again, it seems to go after, I don't know if it's just numbers or topics, because other people post this stuff. There's no problem. This is a good story. I'd recommend, I'll put, again, all these links will be below here when I'm done with the live show, but this, it's on a Daily Caller. They put together a concise narrative / summary with assorted links to all the things that went wrong with CNN in the last year. Yeah, so the Digital Diva says, so I paid out of pocket. I paid out of pocket and didn't declare it because I'd have to go through them to declare it, which then they may turn around and say, well, it's not covered. So I know. That's why it's like what I want. And what Rand Paul has been talking about, and now Ted Cruz, and apparently the White House is on board. It's last-minute change as they're going to look like they're going to take it so that I went to my insurance company and I said, President Trump on the first day of office wrote executive order asking would be the IRS to limit what they could on collecting penalties on Obamacare, the fines. So the IRS came out a week later and said that they would no longer reject 1040s if you did not put in the information for insurance. Now, if you put it in and there's something wrong with it, that's different. But if you just didn't put it in, they would still process it. So that means, essentially, he pulled the teeth out of Obamacare. So if you don't have insurance, you wouldn't get paid the fine. And you could then quit your insurance and not pay the fine. So I call up insurance company, and I say, okay. I tell them what happened. I tell them what President Trump did. And what I wanted was a, what's that called? Catastrophic health care plan, high deductible. I was going to get a health savings account, and that would be my deductible. So I would pay into that. And if I didn't get any claims, I can hold that deductible to match my deductible, and it goes on year and year and year. So instead of paying your money to the health care every year for your deductible, new year, new payments, I can hold that deductible forward. And they said that we're unable, it's our policy not to write plans that aren't, that don't follow the Affordable Health Care Plan. I said, first of all, don't call it Affordable Health Care Plan. It's not affordable. And they're laughing. And I said, well, that's not a law. As far as I know it, you could write a plan. It's my problem if the plan doesn't fit. And now that President Trump took away those teeth, and they said, well, it's our policy not to write the plan unless it follows the law, even though they don't have to worry about it. So one of the things they're planning to put in there would allow you to write whatever plan you want, and they've already put in there good stuff for the health savings account, and that's the way it should be. That's a perfect plan. And then people can afford it. People who would lose health care could actually get health care. I mean, they can afford the health care. So that 24 million who would drop off, 20 million would pop on. And then the other people, would can be dealt with because there's other things that they're working on for the real people who have trouble, and not just people who want to have their plans paid for instead of doing it. So anyway, the CNN story, it's a great encapsulation. I'll just put the links up. You guys can read it. But maybe I'll just click on it for a second. It goes through and it chronicles all the stuff that they have done. And of course you got your little ads and all this stuff that go in there. So let me go back then. Okay. So I wanted to mention something. I got this, Karen Lang wrote this on the Facebook page, and she lives in Chicago, and she has a knucklehead neighbor who doesn't like that they feed the squirrels. Okay, so he catches the squirrels and has the city come and get them. Now I'm serious. This is a guy who's he's actually infirmed. He's got an emphysema and he's like Walking Dead, and yet this guy still goes out and traps squirrels, calls the city of Chicago to come take them away. Right? Just because he wants to jam the neighbor. So anyway, 4 men in a truck to pick up one caught squirrel in a cage. How much money are we paying for these 4 men? I have security cameras and caught this happening. 4 men in a truck pick up a squirrel on city pay. So how do you think that would work with budgets? Now, that reminds me, if I could find this let me play this. It's related to this, to show Chicago, Illinois, what all it's falling apart, no money, we're going to be junk bond status and all this stuff, and Chicago having all their trouble and crimes. This is what Chicago does. I'll play again a clip from this video. Links will be underneath so you can watch it in its entirety.
I'm in Chicago, one of the murder capitals of the world. We are completely in debt and have no way out of our $14 billion hole. Life in our inner cities is as bad as the third world in some cases. People are dying every day. What is our city doing to try and rectify this? Yeah, well, they are attacking the President of the United States with this bullshit. Real fake. Right in front of Trump Tower. Well, remember that when your pension isn't paid. Real fake is that this does a damn thing for anybody. We've got real problems, and this solves exactly 0 of them. So that everybody can take their selfies. It's disgusting. You know what else I wonder about this? How many people work in that tower? How many people does it employ? How much tax money is paid because of activity in that tower?
There you go.
This is what we do, so we can take a poke at Donald Trump. It's awesome. It's terrific. People love it. We're 14 billion in debt. Where do you think we're going to be going for that money? The federal government. And this pokes the federal government in the eye.
All right, I'll let it go, and you guys can watch it more. Andrew Marcus. I'm Andrew Marcus is on Twitter. He's a filmmaker and a Chicagoan. And so how about that? Isn't that, see, this is the thing. When you have some natural, down-to-earth thinking, common sense, critical thinking, a lot of this stuff is so ridiculous. And yet people are like, yeah, this shows Trump. You know, it's just utterly ridiculous. And these people don't, you know, would have liked Trump or watched the show or whatever, and now he is insane. He's terrible. In the election, he was going to do all these terrible things. I don't know. So anyway, I thought I'd bring it to good for Andrew Marcus there. Now, I won't show this. This isn't very long, but please, if you haven't watched this, you're watching this, you probably have watched this already. It is Project Veritas. And if you want to just start at number 3, it recaps the highlights of 1 and 2. But it goes through and it talks about what's going on in part 3. Let me just start this. I don't think James would mind, and I'll put the links on. It's 9 minutes long, though, so I don't want to...
We all recognize he is a clown, that he is hilariously unqualified for this, that he's really bad at this, and that he does not have America's best interests. We recognize his justified crazy.
Would it be fair to question the intellect of the American voter?
Oh, no, they're stupid as shit. I hate to be this way.
I'm going to stop this. They also mentioned in there, and I tell you, really watch this. I will put the links on there. They also talk about the Kellyanne Conway. It looks like she got hit with a shovel. These are the people. These are the CNN. These are the guys who are criticizing Donald Trump's stuff, which is not a fraction of what this is going on. So kudos, big kudos to Project Veritas and James O'Keefe, what they're doing now. One American News Network, great for them. They've been following this and making this part of their newscast. In fact, I would like everybody who has a Twitter account, who is watching this, who wants to see a real news station back on cable, to send a message to Comcast, who have Comcast, let me say, because it's already on AT&T. If you have AT&T, DirecTV, look for One American News Network, OANN. Check it out. I think you'll like it. I actually don't have it on my Comcast, but I got the streaming video, and I'm paying, it's from Cloud TV, Cloud, KLOWD.TV. And you can get their news package. I think it's $4.99 a month, and it has RT, which you can always get already. But it comes along with several things. Plus, you can go back and watch up to 2 weeks in the rear. So it's kind of like a built-in DVR without having to program it. Highly recommend it. And so if you can write to Comcast and suggest that they add One American News Network, and I want to step farther and say remove CNN. Now, another thing is going on. There's a a merger coming up with AT&T is looking to merge with, but they'll be the top end of it. So they're going to buy out, let's say, Time Warner, which CNN is a part. There's talks that they might spin off CNN for various reasons, not just because of all this, but this doesn't help. And it would be great to see that perhaps this might help One American News Network as far as getting on to all the cables. There we go. Distilled structured water. Absolutely fantastic. So take your time to do that if you could. Just look it up. And if you don't have it, just do it anyway if you could. I'm asking you, because I would like to see it on my cable. Now, this is some of the stuff, again, because time is going so fast and people are watching news and they're hearing, Alex Jones is on every day, and you got the Periscope with the two of the guys I like to watch, follow, Jack Prosovic, Buick, and Mike Cernovich, and there's others. New York Times has admitted that the RussiaGate I'm reading from the person who I'm quoting. The 17 intelligence agencies concurred on the assessment of the Russian hacking Democratic emails is false. It is not true. There was 4 that had said it. Well, that's 17. That was out of Hillary Clinton's mouth onward. Yet another fall. Let me get back to that. Truth about CNN. That's a video that done by, I'll put these links, Paul Joseph Watson. He did another summation of all things went wrong. Stefan Moyer did a great job on his assessment of fake news. In fact, a lot of these guys, I just want to, my half the show I could do would be putting on their videos. Because I'm going to be looking into moving on to topics that I'm more adept at and more of a expert in, and just glossing over the news, things I want to take out, I want to highlight, and then going on to, I'm trying to find this. All right, well, maybe it's on here. I don't want to scroll around all day here. Quantum computers. See, I had a thing with this with Richard L. Miller when they talked about quantum computers. I don't think they're actually quantum computers. I think they're very fast computers. But now they've developed a chip that actually is going to use the bits in quanta to store. So this may actually get to the bona fide quantum computers, which will be so fast. See, I just happened to look down, Digital Diva, proponent of the electric universe. Yes, absolutely. He's probably talking to Rick in here, but yes. I've had James McKenney on here many times, but about time I have him back. And his weather book is fantastic to be able to show all of those things. So, there are some stories here. I had Jim Jatras on last week. If you want, I put. You can watch last week's show, or I can look at the standalone video that I put out of him. He's going through about how the U.S. is actually backing the terrorists, but there are stories that are being not covered because they're spending so much time on the Trump issues, and we have links to. Let me just flip on this. Article by Jim Jatras, who goes into the stories and into the links. It is very important that the one thing that's going wrong here with Trump is Syria, but my only hope, and in fact Jim kind of hope too, that there's some rope-a-dope going on here to kind of limit what everyone wants to do, all the deep state wants to do in Syria, and keep him minimized until things can get taken care of. I'm hoping. But please, you check out all these links. Some more truth about the scene, and I'll put them all together in the bottom. I have actually, I forgot to look this up. I put it out there for people to check it out. There is a Wikipedia of the alt-right, but it's supposed to be done by the so-called alt-right. So we'll have to check that out and look into it once more. Another interesting thing is when James O'Keefe came out with his American Pravda. This is this series I was talking about. They ended up let me I'm trying to look. I looked down and I saw, and then you are a fool. I'm like, what? Huh? Who? What? So there's stuff going on in the chat room there. There's a show going on in the chat room. But and Keefe put his video out. They Washington Post said that you didn't tell him that he was actually in Atlanta. You led to believe that he was important in New York or Washington. But if you look at his the video, it says he's in Atlanta. So he wanted to have a retraction, and they will not give it to him. So they're actually lying. They know they're lying, and it's okay. Here's a funny thing. For how many months now we've heard about Trump being under an FBI investigation? Finally, like pulling teeth, it comes out that Trump is not under investigation by the FBI. Has not. Never has been. Finally, it came out, all the people he's saying it under oath, yes, 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 right? Who is under investigation by the FBI is Bernie Sanders. He is under investigation, him and his wife are under investigation by the FBI. And CNN went on for a while, not even asking him about it. Somebody asked him about it, he refuses. And then he ends up finally saying it's all a hit piece. So when the FBI investigates, it's a hit piece. But when they make it up, I mean, when they're literally pretending and there's these fake leaks saying they are, this is the stuff that exposes Bernie Sanders. It exposes the media. It exposes it if you can see it. And this is why I subtitled the program today is blinded. You have the blind guides leading the blind, and there's nothing to comfort that except to be led into a pit. Quote from Jesus. Jesus and Socrates, my two guys. And this is what we're having. We're talking about the blind, which is the media, or actually, a lot of people aren't blind in the media. They know what they're doing. They're purposely leading you into the pit. Here's a study. The Antarctic sea ice loss driven by natural variability, not global warming. Now, I've been saying this all along. It's not that I am anti-global warming or anti-climate change. I'm anti-CO2 is doing the global warming or climate change, because that's a load of crap. That goes back to the 80s. Go watch a Cosmos from 1980s, and you'll see them talking about the Venus as an example of runaway global warming, and then find out what they found on Venus when they radar mapped. There's many, 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 many active volcanoes, and that's where the heat and this sulfuric acid and all the problem comes from there. The Journal of Geophysics Researchers. So there's no indication that this is anything but natural variability. John Turner, a climate scientist with the British Antarctic Survey, told the American Geophysical Union's blog. So you can check out that link, and when people talk, we got Darth Vader, Jesus rocks, Socrates rocks. Yeah, I mean, I've gone into both of those before. Maybe I'll talk about it once I get done with the news stuff here, because it's so important that we see, we have eyes to see and ears to hear, because otherwise you'll get just whisked away. And so there's another narrative going on about white supremacists. People are worried about white supremacists. Paul Joseph Watson did a great video about a person said the number one threat in England is white supremacists, and yet there have been how many attacks by white supremacists? How many attacks by Islamic terrorists? So it's all double gobbledygook speak. Judicial Watch, one of my favorite guys or groups, they're going after everybody. They're going after all kinds of meetings and all kinds of paperwork and letters that all these people had. And, boy, I tell you, there's going to be some heads rolling. They get their stuff done. Now, speaking of global warming again, I should probably group these, but it would be, I probably should. But China and India has increased coal production while shaming Donald Trump for his Paris decision. Doesn't that make sense? Comey, if you watch this one, this is another one, great one. It's by Bill Still. And he took a clip from this Senator Grassley, did a fantastic job of summarizing all the collusion with Clinton and Comey. Fantastic. Again, I'll put the links in there. I could play all this stuff now, except it'd be a 4-hour show. I just want to bring it up to your attention. And then we got back to where we left off last week with my pictures of my little doggy, Molly the Jack Russell. Boy, she's turning out to be a hellion. But boy, what a guard dog. I mean, even though she's not going to be really, really big, but boy, I tell you, she's powerful and full of muscle. When she lunges at something, and it's half what she's going to be. It's pretty amazing. There's Charlie the Wonder Dog. So let me go back to I'll put all these links again at the bottom when we're done. But I want to mention, talk about Jesus and Socrates, and this is one of the things I think I can really put my 2 cents in and have it be worth a few bucks and change, is that I think that before I get into this, making sure that we didn't enter World War III yet. I'm talking here, so I'm sure somebody in the chat want to let me know. All right, good. All right, you have to know what you're doing and why you're doing it. And 2 of the quotes, let me go back to my webpage that I have on my main webpage, feettothefireradio.com. And by the way, you can sign up for a newsletter, which will give you all the information about the shows. And you can watch and listen to live audio and video right from the page. You don't have to join anything. It's just all open. It's got all the stuff on there. But I quoted 2 things. I got pictures of Jesus. Basically, this is a painting, colorized version of the Shroud of Turin, which I've kind of stuck with as a possible visual. And then there's a painting of Socrates based on his bust statue. Socrates, great analytical mind. He didn't write any books, but Plato quoted him. At least in the early works of Plato, Socrates, it's probably accurate about Socrates' life. But when you get into the newer stuff, he uses him more like a sock puppet, like a actor in a play for his own thinking. But in the beginning, anyway, this is without doubt the most reprehensible folly, the folly of thinking we know what we do not know, and the unexamined life is not worth living. This is so important that you self-examine, because if you don't know and you think you know, that's where you break. That's what I'm talking about. Just skip from reality. Just going to go off into delusional. If you want to feel good and you want to think you're smart, and someone tells you smart, they give you an honorary degree, and hey, you're smart, you're in with these other people, and it's all fake. When you need that smartness to get you out of a real situation, it's not going to help you. You can think you can fly all you want, but unless you have aerodynamic physics behind you, you ain't flying. And the other quote, this is Jesus. He's talking to the self-appointed experts. They are blind guides of the blind, and if a blind man guides blind men, both will fall into the pit. And I would also add that a viper, as he called the Pharisees, leading the people wrong. So it's very important. Reality is going to get you through these times. And what's happening with Trump and the media is that those are reality coming through. That's why it's a good thing. And if it's awkward or it's messy when this stuff comes out, that's part of the revealing process. No one says you're going to be getting, it's going to be a smooth process. Watch the movie The Shack. I'm not familiar with it. This is in the chat room from Boiled Nuts. So that is important. And what I plan to do is I've been writing on the screen of what I will be doing, not on these shows. These are going to be merely mostly news and commentary on the news and stuff going on, helping reality. But people like, let's face it, people like Stefan Mollier and Jack Prosibic, Mike Cernovich, Paul Joseph Watson, all these guys are doing a great job of doing this stuff and have more time, frankly, to do it. So I don't want to double and triple what they're doing because they're doing a pretty good job. And I'll bring up stuff that they're talking about. So keep them in mind when you want to learn about what's going on here. But what I can do is bring out these aspects of I tentatively got a system. I tentatively got a system I'm calling correcting Christianity, because what Jesus taught was so excellent, but what we actually have in reality, Christianity, is really a Paulian religion. It's really created by Paul, and they brought in Jesus' teachings and has put a Pauline explanation on it. So I'm looking at doing a whole little series on this stuff, and I'll have them outside standalone files to go along and do this stuff, because it's very important if you want to understand these things. And I think Jesus has a lot to teach in reality and how things work in the spiritual and physical world, how things are. And to use my things like Socrates in the analysis of it, and to understand what Jesus taught, and then put that together. So that's something that I'm working on, trying to put in multi-parts on it, and so on, go step by step. Because first I'm working on, I have to come up with basically, who am I, why am I talking, like a disclaimer, a given, a background, because anybody can just say anything, especially on the internet. Anybody can just say anything. I've listened to guys who are scholastic historians who are talking about the history of the galaxy going back billions of years. And I'm not saying it's not true. They're getting it because their spiritual side is giving it to them. I'm not saying it's not true, but what value is it? Right now, whether people talk about reincarnation, they talk about aliens, Anunnaki, and all this stuff. What value is right now is what's happening at this moment, especially now, because if we are going into the latter days, which does not mean it's going to end, it means it's the certain type of thing is happening here, like an awakening. I'm calling it the revealing, that things that are been kept in darkness is coming into light. Things that were whispered in inner rooms are shouted from the rooftops. And this is what we're seeing plain as day right in front of us. I just had at work a lot of stuff that they were pulling behind the scenes came out into the light. It's everywhere. It's in your life. So if you're confronted with something that you need to do to get yourself in reality, now's the time, because a period of grace, some call it, or they call it a buffer between reality and delusion. That buffer zone is getting lower. So these are the things. Everybody's got stuff to deal with. Everybody's got. I mean, would it be diet, food, drink, relationship, toxicity in pollution, or in work. I mean, all these things you got to deal with them. We're coming to the last round or whatever, and it could be for each one of us personally or collectively. And so this is where we have to look at reality. We got to use critical thinking. That doesn't mean we don't have spiritual thinking. It doesn't mean that we don't have the help and insight that comes from one's soul, which we do. It's no question in my mind. I don't know how I could prove it per se, and I'm not going to attempt to prove it. That's why I'm putting together a bunch of givens. But while I'm talking here, let me see if we got Les Visible's video up here so I can get that ready as to before we go. Anything in the chat? I see a bunch of stuff going on in the chat room. Any questions in the chat room you'd like me to address while we're here live while I'm looking for Les? One time I called Les Video, I called him Lester. Kind of like a joke. Uh-oh. That's not good. I don't see it here. That's not good. He sent me a link, and it's not working. Not working. So I guess we're going to have to miss. All right. So unless something happens very quickly, we're going to have to pass on his video tonight. So let me... Yeah. No, that's funny. Right here, we're giving faith, hope, and love will endure forever. The greater of these are love. Oh. Well, and that said he saw me in the chat room at Lionel Nation. Yeah, I was there. But that word love, very interesting, because and this is one of the things I'll deal with in the Greek, which the New Testament is written in. Some say it was spoken in Aramaic, so that the writing in the New Testament already be a translation in Greek. Maybe. At the time, a lot of people spoke Greek, because it was, even though Romans were in charge, Greeks were in charge for thousands of years, and it was a voice, a common language. But when you look in the word love, the Greek word that's being used at that point being... No, I'm not going to say it. Now I'm looking at the Greek words and I'm forgetting it. Yeah, as a disclaimer, whenever I see something, oftentimes I cannot say the word. I can't explain it. Insanity, genius, both. I don't know. So I have to kind of distract myself. And I'm trying to do that, and it's not working. But you have several different words for love. The word will come. The one in particular is more of a love of giving. In other words, it's a charity is how it's translated in King James. Agape. There we go. Thank you, Digital Diva. The agape love is a charity love. It's a giving love. It's one that you do and don't expect something out of it. It's a selfless love. And this is the type of love that we're talking about in the divine sense, is that when you see a need and you are moved to help that person's need, you don't think about what you're going to get out of it. You may have to think about what it's going to be a cost of you, because it's like somebody pushing somebody out of the way from a car and getting killed themselves. Well, they've given their life for them, and that is the ultimate expression of agape love. And so you also want to do what's the highest best good. So, like giving somebody who needs heroin isn't agape love. Because it's not doing what's the highest best good for them. And that's how I look at when I doing things. The question is, what is the highest best good for all involved? That's what we strive for. Now, it includes yourself, it includes me, but it's not my need, and it isn't always going to be the top thing. And my ultimate loss might be in there, but it's looking at that little bigger picture of the people in your life. What can be highest, best good around? And so that's, if we go through life and do that, we are living in this agape love. We're living in the love talked about, the greatest faith, hope, and love. The greatest of these is love. So this is the type of deal there. Yeah. I was experimenting with this chat system in Lionel, and I don't know. I didn't do so well trying to get the information out there, but anyway. But that's what I'm looking at doing, and I think it'll be interesting. I'm rambling now, I guess, perhaps, but it'll be interesting because what happened to me is that I went through a life of discovery, and starting in the 90s, well, I shouldn't say that, 80s, serious, and I've come many times full circle on my understanding of how the universe works and so on. We're talking about different shows. So that's kind of how I'm looking at it. And what I want to do as far as these things is to try and bring the significant information that I found and why. Because anybody could say anything at any time. And one of the problems is when you have people talking about spirituality, you'll have people say, God told me, or the Holy Spirit told me. And I'm not saying they didn't tell you. Okay? It's not my point. But the point is, when you have personal revelation, it's very significant to the one seeing or having the revelation. It doesn't help a lot to the people outside of it. And then it comes into the, don't you believe me? Don't you trust me? So anybody could say anything, and I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm not going to do it, but I will tell you the stuff that I have found. Some of it came into as far as intuition. Let me look this up. And I learned from it. And that's the stuff that I will share. But all of it is going to be basically on correcting what is being taught as Christianity. Christianity is a great thing. And in spite of that, many, many people are following a Christ-taught Christianity, a Jesus-taught Christianity, in spite of the church. You know, and there are many churches who are pretty good. But if you want to really know what it all means, and once all these things clicked in together, it makes sense. So it sounds funny, but I could say to people, ask me a question. And I have been able to answer all of mine. I have a network about the universe and reality to explain why. Why does this happen? Why doesn't that happen? Why doesn't God just come down and do everything? And people say, well, it's God's will in your life. Seeks God's will. All those things got problems. There's contradictions. For example, if you say, well, it's God, you have to follow God's will. Well, then what you're saying is God said to you, you do this, and if you don't do this, I'm going to punish you. Now, what makes him different than Satan or anybody else in between is that he's not there to make you into some kind of robot. God has God's will, the way I would describe it, to put it in my terms, and this give you a little example of what I'm talking about, is that God knows who you are before you were born. And we'll just stick to the human being at this point instead of, because I can go through a whole, in fact, if you want to go look some of the work I've already done in Resonating with Reality, look up that series. You can go through it if you haven't seen it. And I did a whole thing about the structure of the soul and the spirit and everything like that. And this stuff is not, I'm not saying this stuff authoritatively, like, yes, God told me this is how it is. This model works to explain all the problems that I've had. So it's a working model that it seemed to explain everything in terms of soul, spirit, and whatnot. But God knew you, the human being. I'm talking to you, the human being. God knew you and all your things and allows them to happen because the actual I hate to use the word matrix, of the universe is geared toward the highest, best good for all. That's the whole thing running on its momentum from creation. As God created it, it's going toward the highest, best good for all. It's got that momentum. It's got that fundamental creativity so that as things go, that's what happens. Now, we also have our free will along the way, as much as free as we're known, as what we can do. So as we go along, what God would be saying is, if you follow my advice, one who knows best what you are, so you can be the best you can be and experience best I got some principles you could follow to make it easier, nicer, less problematic. And along the way, because you're going to be clashing with other free wills, when you do get into trouble, by your mistake or someone else's, hang with me, I'll get you through it, and from that mess up, you'll get the highest, best good that's available. And as I made the example, sometimes somebody jumps in front of a bus and helps somebody, and they get killed. That would be the highest, best good in that situation, following along that program. So it is, how do you know what to do at one time? How do I know? You follow that inner voice, that inner guiding. Well, how do I know? How do I know it's not fear talking? Or how do I know it's not the devil talking? How do I know it's not my programming talking or MK Ultra? This is where we have to follow. You have to grow into have that little voice inside. If God wasn't in the whirlwind, God wasn't in all this stuff, it was a still small voice. I love that verse. I'll have to look that up. That is guiding. It's a subtle voice. God wants you to want to follow his program because he knows it'd be best, but it's not God beating you up to follow him. There's a big difference principle-wise. Otherwise, God's just a bigger bully. May have a nicer heart and a bigger bully. And that's not how it is. God is the absolute opposite of that. He is completely willing to let you go through life and do whatever you would like, and you will reap the benefit from when you do right or wrong in the sense of you're going to harm other people, there's going to be karma involved, you're going to learn it, you're going to learn the hard way. But if you want to learn the hard way, God's got eternity. We got a life here. God's got eternity. We don't even know what eternity means. Think about the biggest number you can come up with. Google, which was a 10 to the 100th power or 1,000th power. That number is huge, right? Add 1, and it's bigger. And from eternity's perspective, Google, the biggest number you could think of, 100 million, 1,000 zeros, is no bigger in the scope of eternity than 1. They're so close together when you compare to eternity that it's irrelevant. So God has eternity to work with you for you to be the best, highest, best good. Whether it goes for multiple lives, multiple levels, however it is, it doesn't matter to God. It matters that you make the right choices that you want to make. Not the voice you got it wrong. I'm getting somebody in here. You know that the real you is the one who learns from mistakes. The little voice has no responsibility. I'm not talking about a literal real voice. If you were actually hearing a little voice, a real little voice, got a problem with that. I'm talking about that inner voice. I'm talking about that inner subtle. When I don't hear a voice, when I get direction from God that I attribute from God or from my higher self, what I attribute to that is it's more of a, how do I say it? It's more profound than a feeling. It's more wise than wisdom. It's less, not a vision. It's better than a dream. Not as real as looking with your own eyes. Meaning, there's this quality to it. So it's not that there's if there's actual voice in your head, there may be a problem. It could be, your third eye is blown open. It could be, microwaves in your head, aliens. Could be a number of things. We're getting to a rough time. This is why it's so important to get that. It's a sense, to get that sense of knowingness, and that's what the Greek word gnosko was to mean. It's a know. It's a knowing. There's a knowingness. I know. And you will, in your life, you'll make a choice that you just know with a peace that passes all understanding, with a knowledge, with the understanding. Now, sometimes it might be in the blind because you got a moment you got to act on it, and and so forth. But I hope that's what because people started freaking, or at least one, Omar, started freaking about the voice, and that's not what I'm talking about. The real you is a hard thing to say because the real you is made up of layers that go back to the soul. Yeah, okay, so Elmar, I guess, was talking about that. They've patched into our minds and they can hear our voices and all that. So you're going to need to, and especially people who have some mental issues when they're dealing with, they told me to jump out the window and all this stuff. There's some things, practical things you could use. So if you start hearing voices and say it's some kind of beam or something, when you learn the principles of God, God is never going to tell you to kill somebody or kill yourself or do harm, or that stuff's not going to happen. God is into helping, and when you have that built into yourself, you have God living inside you. That's why Jesus taught, when you see me, you see the Father. A lot of people look into that big metaphysical thing, that and I think it really detracts from the real messages of Jesus, which is fantastic, is that when you are open to letting through from your physical being to your spiritual being, back to your soul, which ultimately comes from God, you have this flow that comes from God in your life. And there's a knowingness that has the wisdom of eternity all the way in the back coming through. And it's not someone who wants to make you into a slave or into some kind of a puppet. God wants you to be you and to be the best you can be for you and for everyone else. So you're always going to get that pressure, that flow from within is going to be for the highest, best good. Now, sometimes it'll flow against you if you're doing harm. But this is where when you get in together, when you look into it, when you develop this personal relationship with God, and Jesus teaches that path and practice on how to do that, this is where I'm looking at. Now, let me check for less visible one more time before it's just not there. No, we don't have the less visible thing for today. So, well, one of two things will happen. I'll talk to Les. Maybe there's a mess up in his upload. And we'll either, if it's really important, I can put it out with you, with it. At Boiled Nuts, we're getting some stuff in the chat room here. One long time ago, I asked God a question. He answered it with just one answer: I love you very much. Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. What I'm talking about is I'm not going to be another guy telling you what to do, or for that matter, telling you what not to do. I'm going to be coming up with the principles that I have found that help me understand reality. I've been through my own personal troubles and problems. Not as bad as many, maybe worse than some. And I was standing there going, I don't understand. And in those moments when I had something that I went through, I could not figure out a way to make everything work. And it actually broke me apart. And in those moments of absolute helplessness, with all my mind and my knowledge, I had the years in school where I had the high test scores and, wow, you're intelligent, why, you should be doing this and that and all these great things, right? Well, in all my knowledge and all my ability and all my analytical skills and all my stuff, I was broken because there was no way I could solve this problem. And it drove me almost nuts trying to solve the problem. And in that moment of vulnerability, that's when I felt, I don't know how else to describe it. I'm remembering that moment now, so it's a little emotional. But I was a truck driver at the time, and I had to stop. I'm laying in the sleeper after literally screaming in agony. had to stop driving. I lay in the sleeper. I was awake for, I think it was about 2 hours when I looked at my clock, and I was completely spent. And I might even say that I broke down. You know, I don't know. I don't know what the technical terms are. But the best way I can feel is, I felt, this is an analogy, this is a model or a metaphor or whatever. It was like, have you ever seen those games, those puzzles, where you have this, you put the numbers in order, you slide them around, you know, and put them in order? Well, how I felt was that puzzle piece was totally messed up. And I felt inside me those pieces being slid around. I mean, I literally felt this. I felt something reaching in me. And as I laid there, just looking up and just, you know, I don't know what to say. All of a sudden, pieces kind of fell into shape, and I was like, it snapped back like, and I laid there, and I just was new. You know, there was a newness, an extreme tiredness, a weariness, but all of that trouble that was breaking me apart was gone. Now, I still had to go through the stuff, right? But from that moment on, the going through with it made sense. You know, I went through it and so on. And that is, now, I don't know how you would explain that if you don't want to have God involved or spirituality. I don't know how you explain that biochemically. I'm sure an atheist would be hell-bent, no pun intended, on doing that. But from that point on, I also developed more of an empathy power. I actually, from that point on, I did some readings and stuff like this where I could pick up energies and so on. But it was never going that way. Like, I went into I studied the New Age stuff. I found all kinds of flaws with it. I went into the various things with psychics and all that, and I found problems with it. You know, so it was like, I had some of these tools, but when I went into the various disciplines, I could see. I had eyes to see and ears to hear, let's say, that would guide me through it, and I learned some things, and I just moved on. So I don't know how much I'll go into that type of stuff, I mean, in details, because it's personal, and it may not apply to anybody, but the principle does. And what I found when I went through all of this is that Jesus' teachings are true. And Jesus came to correct what was being taught at that time and to bring about discipline and a spirituality that literally will save people from going through everything from a bad life to a bad afterlife, and not in the classic sense of how they talk about it now. So the idea is that when you go through all of this, you grow in your own way. And all I want to add to it is the principles that I've come up with. And people like Jesus and Socrates are two of the great people that are on the same page for that. So, and I can go into details about the problems I've had with things. Like I believe from my work that there is something to the tarot, but if there was some good intent, it's been taken over. Those energies, those people using stuff like that, anytime an external type of things, you can use it, but you're putting yourself very exposed and vulnerable because it's been taken over. It's been taken over by the dark side. Whatever it could be, everything from aliens to demons, it doesn't matter to me. I don't have a hierarchy like that. I don't care. And so what I've found is that direct line to yourself, you have a direct line to God. You are God. You're like God with skin on, but God actually wants to create. We're really God's children growing. So, I mean, it's like, it's God's way of creating someone to be with. Now, he's been doing this for eternity, and will do it for eternity, so he's got a eternity head start on us, and I got a head start eternity on people to come, and there's an eternity of people who have already been on the way there. And that's what's great about the whole thing, is that we have this whole network all created by God, who is completely comfortable. He's not jealous. Pick up Lionel Parkinson's book, Lord Holy Virus. Great work in there. It explains where a lot of that comes from. If you go to the old Feet the Fire site and scroll down, the link's on the main website now, Feet the Fire Radio, original F2F site. Scroll down there. There's a link. You can get the book at a great discount. He worked with us on that. I highly recommend that book. It'll be part of the stuff I'll recommend. And if you want to learn about a lot of the Bible verses and so forth, you can go and get books by Bart Ehrman. I think it's Ehrmann. He's done a lot of textual criticism, but he's written it for non-scholars. Now, he's got too negative on it. He's given up and said, well, I got nothing. There's a question by there, did Plato, Socrates commit suicide? Well, technically Socrates committed suicide because he drank the poison, but he was commanded to. So he followed the laws at the time and was commanded to because he was found guilty of sedition because he was teaching the young people, outside of their traditions. They had a multi-God theories and so forth, and Socrates was more, I would say, I would look at him as would be the pre-monotheist, in that he spoke God more of an individual, one. But the bottom line is they found him guilty, which was not. It reminds me of what was going on with Trump here. He's being guilty of stuff he's not. The same principle. Jesus was guilty of stuff he's not. It means throughout all history, when you stand up with truth, it will convict, if I can use the old Christian term, it will convict those people who are delusionary, and they will hate you, and they will come after you, and they will try to silence you, and if nothing else fails, they will kill you. That's what the truth does to someone who's delusional. And when you seek the truth and you find it, it will set you free. And the freeness that you have will enrage the other people who are entrapped. And rather than seek freedom themselves, though a lot will, they will come after you, and they will do whatever it takes. And they will look in your eye, whether, and kill you, like Caesar. And again, I'm not saying Caesar is a great guy, per se, but the point being is that when you're messing with their delusion, if you get bad enough and deep enough and down enough, they will get mad enough and evil enough. And this is what's happening now with President Trump is facing. So whatever his problem is, whatever his sins are, okay, they are not what's important here. What's important is that he's standing up against these people, the same people who convicted Socrates, had him drink hemlock, who killed Jesus, who killed the prophets, who killed all the. This is the same energy, the same spiritual energy that's there, that hatred, and it's really up to us as individuals to keep going for that truth. And I'm hoping that something's being done here in a spiritual sense that that will that will help all grow in that process, and that perhaps maybe there's some respite coming, or the great tribulation or whatever. And don't take it wrong, because I say words that are going to correlate with traditional Christian stuff. A lot of times that is. I have to come up with other words because I don't want to be misunderstood. Because what I'm saying does not, when I say I'm a Christian, most Christian churches would consider me a heretic of some type. In fact, it happened in the early church. A lot of people didn't follow the party line and were called heretics, various types. And Jesus, for that matter, was found guilty of blasphemy. So this is what you're looking for. This is what Jesus talked about, the end times, and when you're suffering for my name. People mistake that and say, well, because I'm a Christian, they're going to attack me. Well, yeah, that's true, but it's suffering for his name. His name is truth. His name is reality. His name is actually analyzing and finding the real connection, that you're really a child of the living God. And when people say they're Asian or, whatever race you are, or creed, or nationality, sexual preference, all those are wrong. It is, you are a child of the living God who is seeking to have an eternal relationship with you, and does have it, will have it, in spite of you, in spite of everyone else. Eventually, you and everyone else will come along with that. And whether you go down the diluted dark path, which is very problematic and hard, and eventually you'll turn. And the idea of eternity in the Bible, a lot of the times they use eternities because they didn't have a phrase to describe timelessness. So most of the time when you see eternity in the Bible, if you look at the Greek words behind it, very rarely is it referring to, like, even when it says forever and ever, in the Greek it's really an eon of eons, ages of ages. It's timelessness. So we have a timeless future, and we can do a lot of learning and grow and get to the next levels of goodness, or you get to the next levels of badness, but eventually you're going to move along, and the negative level will change polarity, as I call it, and be positive. And at that point, it's a very hard time, and it's very hard to turn around. The deeper you get dark, the harder it is to turn around, because just think of the liberals, and I'm not talking about conservatives are good, because there's plenty of bad problems there. But think about these people who are sticking to these Russia things and all that. They got to turn around and say, no, we were wrong. And that takes a lot of ego base that they're at. So think of what's waiting for these people in their conversion, and times a trillion for someone who advances and goes down through negativity to the next negative level, the next level, and then they're going to turn around at some point and say, all of that was wrong. The good news is at that point, once they go through that, which who knows what it would take and how long, is they will be very wise to why things are good and why things are called bad, because they found out the hard way. And then the deeper you go, the harder down you go, the harder to turn, the wiser you are. So that's the good news. The bad news is that it's going to take a long, painful time. Now, if you're deluded in thinking that you're going on the good path, and you end up finding out that you've made these choices and you're going into the dark path, you're going to find a lot of hard right there, because you're not really geared for that. But you are geared for it energetically and spiritually. So this is why you have to seek truth. Find out what the right thing is and do it, because the cost. I have a song that I wrote. I don't have it on YouTube yet, but you can go to my website, innersights.com/Jancik. I think it is, Jancik. There's some songs I got up there. One's called Princess Lava Lava. There's a whole story behind that. I'll tell it someday. But one of the songs in there is Help Me To Find Real, Help Me To Keep Real, Help Me To Stay Real, because living real has no hidden costs. And that's really, really important. That you must be real. You must learn reality. You must find out realness, because if you are living in a delusion, there's a hidden cost. And the costs are getting higher nowadays. So this is why it's very important. And this is what I'm hoping on doing, is being able to put what I've come up together to help people stay real. So, all right, I'm looking at the clock. I got to go. There's no Less Visible today. We'll get it out either next week or something. So hang in there. I appreciate those in the chat room. Digital Diva, I've seen a lot. Boiling Nuts, Darth Vader, Omar. So, Dirty Man Jones. There we go. So, the great I am, God is love, faith is the substance of being hoped for, and the evidence of things not seen. Yes. The problem is that people can use that concept and corrupt you into thinking that doing what they say, you can't see it, you can't understand it, you don't know, but, it's something unseen. You got to have faith. Faith is good, but when you find reality, you always will have backup. You can see goodness in nature, and you can see falling in nature. So, it's important that you're going to need faith to realize that God created the universe and there is something going on, and it's a force that's going to go for good, and that's the faith. It's not a question of whether or not it's going to go bad all of a sudden, or maybe Satan will win, or what have you. So this is what I'm going to be. This is what I'm about, and this is what I think I want to talk more about. Give me some feedback on this, because I know the trend is all this political stuff and all that, and I had to make a stand on it, because it was a question of delusional wrongness in this case on the left side, who is bringing people into darkness, and I had to make a stand on it. I still do, and I still will. But these are the kind of things I'd like to talk about. So if you like this, drop me a line. You like the video and comment and all that stuff. I'm not always into that kind of marketing understanding thing, but I do like the communication, so that the best thing is, if you have a question about it, I always wondered about this, please send me that question, because oftentimes when I look into it, I'm going to find an answer and or a better answer than even what I had. You can't lose. You can't lose. You just have to choose. When you choose, you say, look, God, I don't know nothing. I just want to know the truth. Show me the truth. You just do that. You will find the truth, because God will always answer prayer. And the prayer is not like, hey, can I win lotto? Hey, it is plea, and that's why the Lord's Prayer. Give us our daily bread. Let me change that and say, bring us to our highest, best good for me and all those around me, would be I think a deeper way of saying a lot of stuff in the Lord's Prayer. It'd be just another way to say it. So, all right. I think I will play, I'll put a link to it. Go check out the one song I do have called The Ancient One. It's on YouTube. It's on my YouTube channel. I'll put the link in here when I'm figuring it all out. Just check it out. That's one of my favorite. I played that song. I did it myself, recorded it, did everything on there. And I played it to myself, and I just can't believe it came out of me. Now, you don't have to like it. That's fine. But I see this. I see it, and I just I hear the song, and I don't think I could ever sing it again. Because when I hear the song, I can feel the influx of love coming for God, because I wrote that song for God. Like the little drummer boy. I actually was a little drummer boy when I did that song, and the blessings I get from it. Just thinking about it now, it chokes me up. But I'll put the links to that there, and if you like it, that's fine. But those are the kind of blessings that you can't measure by matter. That song is in my head and in my heart. It's a gift from God, and a gift from me to God forever. Set me on fire. I rot in the ground. That lives forever. And your soul lives forever. So all the stuff we got going around is not that important. Even living isn't that important. It's not that you live. It's how you live. It's why you live. Of course, I do have a little vested interest in dying. I'd rather not be eaten alive by an animal or burned to death slowly. Yeah, I'd kind of like, but even that, you're talking about a matter of minutes or hours that, and God will be there at that time. So this is how I get through life. This is how I can take another, after that breakdown and everything falling apart, it utterly changed my life. Everything in my life changed. And, it was not positive, let me tell you, but it led to positive. It led to who I am now. It led to my knowledge. It led to me growing and to me sharing on this. So I appreciate I appreciate any kind of comments and emails and so on, because it, again, I'd like to be able to be of a service as well. Unlike I see a lot of other people, I listen to so-called prophets and all that, and they are. I'm not saying when I say so-called, I don't mean to, but I can feel the ego in it. And to me, this is humbling. This is exposure. This isn't like, I don't turn this thing off and go like, wow, it was good today, or, how was that show today? I'm going to watch it and take some critical analysis. No, this is just me talking. I got a camera here, and you're on the other end, and that's all it is. And hopefully, it'll be of benefit to you. It'll be a benefit to me. And so let me stop yapping and move on here. So I will put those links up, and I appreciate, the input in the chat room. Darth Vader, Digital Diva, I guess we're doing, and Bowling Nuts, they were doing most of the talks. Omar came in there, so I appreciate the input and the just being there, the chatter and so forth. And we will see you again next week, and I'll start working on these things. So in particular, if you ask me biblical questions, principles in there, and about, well, the Bible says this or the church says that, those type of questions, big philosophical questions, yeah, of course I can deal with that, but this is more, I think, where I'm geared for in that type of thing. But any questions, literally any questions, I would love to hear. So here we go to the end. Remember, if you can subscribe and like and all that stuff, because it looks nice, because when people come along, they say, oh, look, there's X amount of people saw this or like this. Maybe I'll look at it. And maybe they'll learn something, and they'll be able to share, and we all grow from it. Unfortunately, a lot of the times has to do with that. I've been doing this since 2003, doing a live show, 2003, every week. Well, I miss a week here and there. Problems have happened, and I miss it. So this is what I do. And as Kojak would say, like that there. And we will see you next time.